Bitcoin is under fire and is now fighting to hold the $100,000 line. And as you can see, this is an emergency update. At the time of recording, we're now dropping below the $96,000 mark. We're also now below the crucial $98,000, which a lot of people still see as support, and we could definitely see further sell-offs by the time you watch this video. We're seeing massive liquidations. I'll also give you another emergency update right at the end of the video. First, let's take a look at what happened and what triggered this crash below the $100,000 mark. And then we'll also look at what shot us down to 96,000. We've really had a flash crash to the downside here within just minutes. We've seen this happen several times now. Yeah, I'll give you all the info at the end. The US Central Bank has done something very, very critical here that we absolutely need to take a look at. This is definitely putting pressure on the market. The mood couldn't be worse. People are really going into panic mode now, even though none of this actually makes any sense. We'll also take a look at why that is. Now, we have the Luxembourg finance minister talking about the strategic Bitcoin reserve. He announces that more countries will be turning to Bitcoin. We have the Winklevoss twins talking about Bitcoin prices of $1 million and more. We have live clips from the biggest MIT conference in Europe, in Amsterdam, and yet the Bitcoin price is really struggling here. But right now, there are a few reasons that are mainly causing price pressure here. But no one really knows for sure. Of course, there are a lot of so-called smart people now who say, yes, that's it. Others say it's the liquidity. Others say the cycles have shifted. Still others say it's election-related selling. And others say it's the economic data from the US. Let's take a look at the whole thing. Then you can form your own opinion. But before we dive right in, we need every like we can get so that we don't keep dropping even further. I've already said before, the $98,000 mark is very, very important. We've fallen below $100,000, and now it's about moving back toward a new all-time high and not dropping substantially below $98,000. That's why I need hit the like button below for higher Bitcoin prices for new all-time highs. And as a thank you, I'll show you the beach here. Let's look, of course they're letting people onto the beach. Like I said, sometimes you can't really clearly differentiate what exactly is causing it. I mean, it could be the liquidity. You could say, okay, the liquidity isn't there yet. There's not enough liquidity in the market, and that's why Bitcoin is struggling. We also have the Federal Reserve, which hasn't started stimulating yet and is still holding back a bit. I also found some really, really interesting assessments here. I have to pull it out now, yeah. There aren't really any sensational headlines right now that would cause Bitcoin to be massively sold off or that would make people go into panic mode. The market wanted the consumer price indices, but it knows that's not going to happen. As I've already reported, basically, it knows that the economic data won't be released. Of course, that can create uncertainty here. Then we have major layoffs, which can also obviously cause uncertainty. We also have to say it's not just Bitcoin that's under pressure. The general markets are under pressure here too. People thought the US government shutdown would end and then maybe the markets would pump, but it turned out to be more of a buy the rumor, sell the news situation. We see that often. People expect things to go up, but then there's a sell-off because the news gets sold off. Then we had 3 different presidents of the US Federal Reserve speak out in the last 48 hours, saying that they're more concerned about inflation. A few weeks ago, Powell had made it clear that the downside risks to the labor market were more important to him. The sudden change in course now suggests that an interest rate cut in December is unlikely to happen. Along with the potential concerns about investment spending on AI, this seems to be causing this decline here. But seriously, no one can really tell you for sure. Look, the wisdom is that we still have the IPO moment, meaning we just have old school OGs who are selling Bitcoin here, just wanting to take some profits right now. Yeah, there are so many reasons right now why Bitcoin could be dropping. I know people always want absolute answers here. They want to say, he caused it, it's his fault, they messed it up, and so on. But honestly, I have to say, sometimes with Bitcoin, it's not that easy to clearly visualize what's going on. That's why I prefer to be honest and tell you, hey, there are various reasons in combination that are causing Bitcoin to weaken right now. Pin it all on one reason, that's a bit difficult for me. But we also have some major things happening in the background right now. The biggest Bitcoin conference in Europe is happening here in Amsterdam. And we have the finance minister from Luxembourg here. They've built up a strategic Bitcoin reserve here with their wealth fund. The first major wealth fund here in Europe or the EU. That is betting on Bitcoin, and he's making a major announcement here. More countries will soon follow.
That's, well, right? These days, it is pretty much the norm, meaning that this kind of thing happens so often that most people are used to it. What was once considered unusual has now become a regular part of everyday life for many people.
that you just go to a conference to throw out a few catchphrases and someone drops an even bigger announcement than the others. But in the end, nothing actually happens. He said very clearly, we've already invested 1% in Bitcoin. We're not here to take a break, we're here to execute. The whole thing has already happened. Bitcoin is part of our asset strategy.
And while the fund's investment policy allows for an allocation in any crypto asset, it has chosen to invest only in Bitcoin. Thank you.
And that's also very, very positive. This information keeps trickling down to asset managers, to countries, sub-wealth funds. Just think about it. They're clicking back here and so on, and they're simply realizing, no, we can't bet on shitcoins here. If we're really managing a country's strategic reserves here, then it only makes sense to use Bitcoin. That's how it is in the US, that's how it is here in El Salvador, and that's exactly how they're doing it now in Luxembourg too.
Because, as Michael Saylor once said, there is no second best. And we're in it for the long haul. And let me be clear, Luxembourg hodls.
But hey, I also have to be honest with you about what I think of the speech. You can really tell somehow Michael Saylor kind of set the playbook. And now, honestly, every village idiot is just jumping on the bandwagon. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. They put on a suit, throw on a tie, act like some suit and tie coiner, and then just parrot Michael Saylor a bit. There is no second best model, don't sell your Bitcoin, you do not sell, blah, blah, blah. And that's honestly what bothers me a bit, that the authenticity is just totally lost. I mean, you have to bring a bit of your own touch to it and not just run through the whole Saylor playbook. I mean, respect to Saylor, it's awesome, and I'm also really, really inspired. But you can also take what Saylor does and add your own touch, your own authenticity, your own thing to it. Not everyone here has to be a one-to-one clone and just read speeches off a script. It's always like that with Donald Trump and all those other big speeches. Everyone just reads all the speeches word for word. That always kind of annoys me because it just lacks any real power. It's just this pre-scripted stuff, and people just eat it up. People actually believe it too. I mean, they bought it too, and I don't want to talk bad about them or anything. I just wanted to vent a little that, for me, there's a lack of authenticity sometimes, and everything just feels way too scripted.
We are still early. I'm sure that others will soon follow our lead.
Other nations will join in, even in the EU. Now we're seeing the Czech Republic, who have just bought Bitcoin. Luxembourg has bought Bitcoin. The question is, when will the next countries here in the EU also start buying Bitcoin? And it's kind of crazy that Lagarde is always bashing Bitcoin, and now more and more nations are potentially turning to Bitcoin. Yeah, definitely very, very bullish, even if it's just being read out loud.
As Minister of Finance, I meet with companies and financial institutions from all over the world. Digital assets are a topic that is high on everyone's agenda. Also, to set the context, I wouldn't like to tell you a little bit about Luxembourg, not to give you a sales pitch.
So definitely very, very strong. I don't know, talking it down or something, that's all I know. A little bit of criticism, of course. Still, a very, very strong speech. I mean, just imagine if we had some German politicians, a German finance minister who still wants to push through the digital euro. And in Luxembourg, they're already building on Bitcoin and the like. And it's not even a bad thing. I mean, look at what we expect from a finance minister like that. Of course, this isn't someone who, like us, spends 10 hours a day dealing with Bitcoin. It's already very commendable that he's open to it, that he's bullish about it, that he wants to learn, even if it was a bit scripted here. But the ones who definitely aren't scripted are the Winkleworth brothers. They've been around for a really, really long time. They can, of course, just rattle off a speech like this off the top of their heads. They get on stage, boom, start talking, and throw out their predictions. And you have to make a distinction here. These are people who've been around since 2011, 2012, or something like that. They were bullish even back then, calling for $100,000. And now they're making the next price prediction.
That if Bitcoin is gold 2.0, then it has to disrupt gold. It has to disrupt the market cap of gold. And when you do that quick math, that indicates a price per Bitcoin of $1 million per Bitcoin in the future.
So if Bitcoin is gold 2.0, and it definitely is, because now we have money that's more resistant, divisible, portable, and scarcer than gold. So the properties are superior, aside from the history. Then Bitcoin has to rise to 1 million here, just to keep it simple. But by now, Bitcoin would actually have to rise not just to 1 million, we'd already be at 1.45 million or something like that. And even that is unlikely because gold is also going to keep rising. So this flipping will probably happen at the earliest at 2 million or even later. And yes, it's true, it will happen. A lot of people don't see that because right now they're just in bear mode. They're thinking, wow, Bitcoin hasn't really moved for almost a year now. But you shouldn't let yourself get worked up about it. Everything that's changed here, or everything that's bearish here, is just the price. The fundamentals, the underlying factors, they're more bullish than ever. You can see it here. The biggest sovereign and wealth funds in the world, even central banks, they're getting it now. Retail investors, they're in a deep sleep. They're still somehow busy with coma-like worries or something, but they're not doing their homework here. The big players are the ones doing that. That's also why, yeah, the content here is just to remind you. Do your homework. Get familiar with Bitcoin. I'm not even saying buy Bitcoin, but at least learn about it.
At minimum. And so we think Bitcoin's going to become the global reserve currency for the world eventually. And we think it's just started. If it's going to be over 1 million a coin and it's about 100,000 today, well, that's a 10x from here. So we're maybe in the bottom, to use an American sports analogy, maybe the bottom of the first inning of American baseball game.
Assess action. Bitcoin will also become a reserve asset. Central banks will hold it, countries will hold it, and sub-entities and workfronts will have it too. And that's the thing. If you don't do your homework, they're just going to snatch up the Bitcoin before you. That's exactly the point. Sailor's going to keep buying Bitcoin too. And then people start whining again, saying, I don't have any Bitcoin. Well, the big players bought up my Bitcoin, and now the Bitcoin price is so high. He says it very clearly. Right now, we have a 90% discount because Bitcoin will rise to at least 1 million. And even higher, so a tenfold increase is not out of the question. And he also says something very, very important that most people still don't get. We're still right at the very beginning. He says we're at the start of the baseball game, but I'd say it's more like we're still warming up. The referee hasn't even blown the whistle to start the game yet. And at the same time, in the fiat game, like euros, dollars, and so on, we're probably already in overtime. I don't know if it's the first overtime or the second overtime, or maybe even penalty shootouts. Well, probably not penalty shootouts yet, but we're already pretty far along. And that should give us hope. And now, here's another important update. We've now dropped below 97,000 here. Now we're seeing massive liquidations here. Here, 300 million wiped out across the entire crypto market in just 10 minutes. And that's been happening repeatedly lately, that we just have these leveraged positions getting wiped out. And this time, it was just a bit more intense. I also checked again to see if there were any fundamental things that had changed. Did something happen? Did Donald Trump say something? Did something happen at the Fed and so on? But I couldn't see anything clear here. In the past, when there were just these flash crashes triggered only by leveraged positions, they were bought up again very, very quickly. In those cases, it was more like a bear trap. I'm not a trader myself. What a lot of traders are watching is the $98,000 mark. Now we've fallen below that. Probably more important because it's likely that the weekly closing candle here, like just a few hours ago, just dropped down. Like I said, it could also be that it gets bought up again very, very quickly. As always, it could go up, it could go down. Now the memes are already coming out. Here, Tom Lee just got buried. Yeah, because he said this year things would go way up. Doesn't really look like it right now, but guys, you don't need to panic. Like I said, always look at the fundamentals. Has anything changed there? No, fundamentally, nothing has changed. Of course, these are also some crazy buying opportunities right now. And some people now think that this might be the start of the bear market. If this continues and things drop even further, then the real bear market could begin. I mean, there were some who thought that cycle-wise it would fit, but in terms of liquidity, it actually doesn't fit at all. We haven't seen any euphoria yet. No escalation, no blow-off top. In the past, it was always the case that we saw an escalation or at least a bit of euphoria before we entered a bear market. We've never just had a sideways movement and then gone straight into a bear market from there. But it could also be that this time is different. Feel free to write in the comments how you see it. In any case, I definitely see this as a buying opportunity, especially if you're in it for the long term, because nothing has fundamentally changed. But of course, this is not financial advice.
And if you want to buy Bitcoin now, just go to 21 Bitcoin and enter the code Bitcoin Hotel. There you can simply and securely buy Bitcoin. You'll save 20% on fees when buying Bitcoin there. All right, folks, see you next time. See you around. Peace out.